because when I have this, if I just tap it,
Test 1, 2. I can hear you.
mutes it. Oh, you can hear that? Really? Oh, that.
Can't hear the tap, but I can hear you.
I found out that tapping this like makes it go mute, so I'll just probably do that from now on instead of.
I just got to figure out what the different colors mean,
Right. Too many times I've been caught slipping, and it's actually not on at all. So it's all right.
All right. Hello and welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rithmm Rundown with myself, Josh Applebaum, and my partner in crime, one of the sharpest guys I know, Mr. Cade Harper. And Cade, we're progressing each round of the postseason. Just got through the divisional round, and now, of course, one of the best Sundays of the year. We got, of course, the AFC Championship game, NFC Championship game. So today's Rithmm Rundown is really going to focus. Just let's spread our, branch out. Let's go slow. Let's walk through both of these games. You and I have done so many streams where we're looking at, the Thursday night game, the Monday nighter, the Sunday nighter, the huge slate of 12 Sunday games. Well, no, this time I think less is more. I think as a sports bettor, sometimes you learn to really get excited about these games, because I know, Cade, when I was new into betting, it was like volume. I want a ton of games. I want to choose from a bunch. I want to have a lot of tickets, but kind of less is more when it comes to the postseason. Obviously, these games are super important. There's a ton on the line, but also I think, and we've proven it so far throughout the postseason, that there's an opportunity here to really go against the grain, looking at teams that the public is not in love with. We can actually fade a lot of this public sentiment, because a lot of these bettors may not have bet, and looked at rhythm system matches and predictions all season long, but they're going to want to get in on New England, Denver, or Rams, Seattle. And of course, we have the buzz of the Super Bowl just a couple weeks away. So don't get down. I know we've only got a couple, 3 NFL games left, these 2 in the Super Bowl, but I'm excited to break down both these games with you, Cade. So want to welcome everyone in, of course, and I'll throw it to you, Cade, because I'm going to give a little shout out to Rithmm. Then I'm going to ask you how you're doing. So the shout out to Rithmm is that the Miami National Championship game, you and I talked about it last week, came through, didn't win the game, but covered the number. And remember, that was a situation where you had heavy betting, obviously going with Mendoza, Heisman winner, the whole story of him coming back home in his backyard, undefeated season, Signetti, yada, yada, yada. You had basically 80% of spread bets laying it with Indiana. They were a huge public play. But remember, they opened like -7, 7.5. They got up to 8.5. And you and I were talking about, hey, now's the time on our Thursday show of last week, exactly a week ago, we should jump on the 8.5 here, because if you remember, not only was there a huge contrarian opportunity to bet against the public and take Miami, but we had 2 Rithmm recommendations saying Miami should only be about a plus 2.9 dog and a plus 4.2 dog. So if I could layer, and we always talk about how we, you and I both use Rithmm slightly differently, but from the same, standpoint of trying to validate and make us feel like, our initial thought or the decision that we want to make is backed up by the data and what Rithmm is saying. Because remember, that 8.5 started to get down to 8 or 7.5. It was a super contrarian play, and we could get the 8.5 when Rithmm was saying it should be about a 3 or 4 point game. So shout out to Rithmm for that great prediction there to cover the number. But Cade, I'll throw it to you. I was rooting for you so hard, man, to win that futures play. You had a great ticket with some incredible CLV on Miami. Walk me through the championship game and the emotions that you were going through, because, man, you were so close to a huge hit.
It did. It did hurt. It did hurt a little bit. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. I was actually able to grab, I I think Indiana live for something small at some point just to kind of earn back that wager a little bit. So I guess you kind of call it a small hedge in a way. It was when the game was like pretty tight knit at the second half though. So not when it was 10-0 when they're probably minus like 400 at the time. But yeah, what a game. I was honestly impressed, and congrats to them, honestly. Not that I doubted it or anything like that, but very big number for a national championship game. And like we said, we talked about it. We pretty much hit it on the head as far as what we think is pretty much going to happen. And the game kind of took its course. If I do say, I mean, they had a chance at the end to kind of steal it, but is what it is. And we move on to our next Tale of Futures in the NFL this weekend. So,
well, that being said, man, I want to throw this at you because, again, we're going to pop open the Rithmm app. We're going to look at all these games from a side, total, and a prop perspective. But, looking at futures here, here's a test case. Obviously, these numbers are very shortened here because we're at the Final Four. But I'm looking right now at DraftKings, and we have Seattle to win the whole thing, plus 145. Favorite right now, of course. Home field this weekend, and they've been looking pretty good all season long. Rams are right behind them, plus 230. We have the Pats plus 250 and the Broncos plus 1100. So, I'm not going to ask you if you played any of these or maybe you're holding a better number on one of these, but do any of these numbers entice you? I guess the first thought from my end is that the two favorites to win the Super Bowl are both playing each other in the NFC. So Seattle and the Rams are your two favorites there, plus 145, plus 230. I think that tells you that the winner of that game is going to be favored in the Super Bowl over the Patriots or the Broncos. But anything entice you there from a futures perspective? Anything surprise you, Cade? Or are you maybe holding? Did you get the Patriots at a better number? Am I making that up?
I didn't get the Patriots. I just took the win total this year. I did take the win. I didn't take them Super Bowl. I fiddle around with the Rams so much, but I was so dead set on the Niners. That hurt even more.
I'm with you on that one, man.
Yeah. See, I had Niners. That's obviously out of the picture now. Pats win total. I think I was looking into other futures because I saw something crazy. Someone made a great point. And again, naturally, I don't know who. It was one of those things you say on Twitter, you never see it again. But Jarrett Stidham for Super Bowl MVP was like a hot commodity. And I was like looking into it, and it's actually at a really good price. And obviously, you look at the quarter; it's a QB award. Obviously, like 7 of the last 10, it said, won the Super Bowl MVP. So I was looking into it, and I mean, his numbers are there. It's got the potential to it. I mean, if he pulls off the upset, I mean, he's the guy. I mean, like if they win, I just don't see how they give it to anybody else. But I guess that would probably be the only one I would look into, just because it would be a fun one to sweat out, I think, for the price of it.
Yeah, good point by you. Again, we got to talk Stidham. We're going to definitely, talk from a data-driven standpoint and how that line move has adjusted. Before we get into it, though, Kate, I just wanted to share my screen, let everyone get right into the Rithmm app because, of course, the whole point of this live stream is to help bettors use Rithmm to their advantage. Obviously, whether you're approaching it from a data-driven perspective like me and using it as a backup, or maybe you set your own numbers like you do, Kate, and you're comparing your numbers to Rithmm. There's a not an inexact science, I would say, but a lot of bettors just like to say, hey, give me the green star recommended plays, give me the smart signals, let me pick and choose. But obviously, all this great data is available to you when you download Rithmm. So I always want to mention, if you haven't done it yet, use promo code START25. That's going to give you 25% off your first month of service. You can also take advantage of the 7-day free trial. We have our new parlay builder, which we've talked about quite a bit. But if you're into betting parlays, which the majority of betting public loves to bet parlays, Rithmm is going to help you to decide which legs to add and which legs to take out of your parlay based on the optimization of the probability of the outcome hitting for you. So highly recommend playing around with the new parlay builder. And then, of course, we have great getting started tutorials as well as our contests. And, of course, you can take advantage of the Rithmm Discord here. So all of those features are available to you. And always just look at the Rithmm homepage because Rithmm does a great job of keeping us posted of what they're working on, what they're adding. Remember, there is a refer a friend. So if you enjoy Rithmm and maybe you think your cousin would like it or your colleague at work or your neighbor, definitely send them your referral link. You'll both get a little bit of a sweetener there. But with that being said, Cade, let's dive right into these two games because I'll give you my first thought, and I'm probably going to give it away here in terms of the direction that I'll be going. But the first thing that really jumped out to me for both these games, Cade, is that they are super lopsided. Like the perspective of the betting public in these two games could not be more stark. We are looking at situations where both of these teams in both these games, one of them is getting like 80% of bets, one is getting like 20% of bets. So this is an opportunity that if you do like to bet against the public, which I'm a big proponent of, I used to be a public bettor. I used to do all the things that I've learned over time not to do, which is chase your losses, parlay home teams and favorites, Cade, double down, triple down, bet your favorite teams. No. You learn over time that if that were the case, if it was as easy, and this is the whole point of being a contrarian, is that if the obvious public play, won at a high rate, the odds makers would go bankrupt. Vegas would take a huge hit. Odds, regular average Joe bettors would quit their day jobs and become full-time bettors. But that doesn't happen. It's not always the case that the team with a better record wins and covers. It's not the team who looked great the past game guarantee that they're going to look great again. That's what makes sports betting difficult, but also provides a blueprint, because if you can consistently place yourself against the public who bets on emotion, and then also simultaneously place yourself with the house who wins at a high rate long term, the adage of the house always wins, a lot of that is the juice, but still, that's the whole point of being a mentality, a philosophy, just like that Miami game. Everyone's loading up on Hoosiers. Rithmm had a good edge toward Miami, and the line was going back toward Miami. So from that standpoint, both these games have very, very clear public and contrarian sides. But let's start off with the first one here, Cade. My Patriots and the Denver Broncos. Now, this one, right off the bat, has been all over the place because we saw right after that incredible win by the Broncos. Remember, that was dog to fave toward Denver. You needed some very, I guess you could say awesome or terrible calls. If you're a Bills fan, you hated that was an interception and not a catch. Obviously, we're looking at the result there, though, of the public being on Buffalo. The line went to Denver. Money line short favorites. That's always critical to me. But then once that game ended, we saw Sean Payton come out immediately and say Bo Nix's ankle is broken. He's out for the year. So I remember, Kate, I was looking on Twitter. I'm like, is this a joke? Like in the age of AI, when we don't know what's real and what's not? Yeah, is it like, who knows? Is this legit or not? And then you heard, Rappaport, Schefter, they piled on. And then there's the clip of Payton at the podium saying, yeah, Bo Nix is out. Here's the thing, though. Once Bo Nix was ruled out very quickly, and I think that was interesting of Payton to do that so fast. Like, why not play the game of, oh, he's questionable and make the other team game plan, like gamesmanship? Payton just said, screw this. No, I'm getting out ahead of it. I'm going to tell you right now, maybe that was a show of confidence in Stidham, who's obviously got ties to the Patriots who drafted him. But for whatever reason, Payton said, let's get out in front of it. Jared Stidham's going to be the starter here. That's when we saw a huge adjustment. I mean, I haven't confirmed this, Cade, but there are some tweets out there from people I respect that, had Bo Nix been healthy, this was going to be like Denver -3. I even heard maybe Denver -3.5.
Yeah.
Well, once we knew that Bo Nix was not going to play, and Jarrett Stidham, who has not taken a snap, I think in like 3 years, has been a career backup. Once that switch was made, Nix to Stidham, there was a huge adjustment toward the Patriots. Patriots immediately flipped to around a 5.5, even a 6-point favorite at some shops. Now, the public doesn't care about that number. All they care about is Pats are rolling and Jared Stidham's on the other side. So right now, this is the first of the two really lopsided games. 74% of spread bets at DraftKings are laying it with New England. However, one thing you and I always like to do is not let our biases and our subjectivity and the herd mentality talk us into something. Let's cut through the noise. Let's look at the way the market is reacting. What's important to me, Cade, is that this line is not continuing to go up toward the Patriots, even though they're a huge popular play. It's coming down toward Jared Stidham. So again, tipping as high as reaching as high as Pat's -5.5, -6. You had a couple books still at 5.5 yesterday. Well, we look at the odds today, Cade, we're down to 4.5. So biggest question bettors need to ask themselves, why is the line coming back toward the Broncos when public's hammering New England? That is a dead giveaway to me that the Broncos are the sharp play here. Classic reverse line move when the betting line goes away from the popular side toward the unpopular side. And then if you even take away Stidham, and I admit Stidham is a huge unknown. He could play great. He could play terrible. Pats could roll, easily cover this number. But the fact the line's coming back toward Denver Denver obviously has a huge home field advantage at Mile High. The ultimate buy on bad news, sell on good news. The public loves New England right now. They're really down on Denver. Let's invert that and buy low on the bad news with Denver. And then you're also looking at just the adjustment in the line. Here's a question you also have to ask yourself, Cade. If Denver was like -3 with Bo Nix and now they're getting 4.5 with Stidham, is that difference, is that switch from Nix to Stidham worth 8-9 points? I think a lot of bettors who are tied into the value of what quarterbacks are worth would tell you that is a way too big of an adjustment. It should not be that much. So even though I'm a Pats fan, and again, I played Pats late against Texans -3, they came through. I'm going to bet against them this week here, Cade. I jumped on Denver plus 5.5 yesterday. Super contrarian play. I love that it's getting down to 4.5. But even if you missed the 5.5, let's look at what Rithmm is predicting here. All three models are on the Denver Broncos. First model, Denver should only be getting 3.5. Second model, a Green Star recommended Denver +3. Third model, Denver +3.7. So we can go against the masses. We can follow this sharp buyback toward Denver. We can play a dog that no one believes in, Cade. And even though you're not getting the 5.5, it's down to 4.5. Rithmm is still saying play this number because it should be about maybe a field goal game, a 3-point game. That was me rattling on, Cade, about why I'm going to bet against my favorite team and go Denver. I got the 5.5 here. Let me toss it to you. How do you view this game? Are you surprised by the switch in the number, the adjustment based on the quarterback change? How are you attacking Patriots Broncos AFC Championship game?
I'm not surprised at all, honestly. I mean, I don't really blame them. You know what I mean? Like, as somebody who doesn't necessarily look into betting as much, you immediately see a backup quarterback in a playoff game. You're going to be like, absolutely not. But my first question would be for you, like, as a Pats fan, how worried are you? Or are you at all?
So I'm always worried because, Cade, you're asking a guy who was a 12-point dog against the greatest show on turf when I was 13 years old, next to my dad, beating Kurt Warner and the Rams. But then also you're talking to a guy who was like -14 against the Giants, and David Tyree beat me. So as a Pats fan, anything can happen. I will tell you, though, in New England, people are way too confident in New England. Everyone you're hearing is, everything people are saying is they're going to roll them. Stidham sucks. So I'm nervous because that's who I am. But overall, Cade, good question to ask. Pats fans are very confident. I would argue overconfident here.
That's fair. I get it. It's justified. But again, we're doing something that nobody on this world wants to do right now. And I'm on the Broncos myself. I took them. I believe I had them at 5. I might have not. I think I waited. I think I got it back down at 4. I did. I got it back at 4. That was on Caesars earlier this week, -105. Which still around the same price, I believe, if I'm not mistaken as well. But the game's really weird because, yes, you look at the offense of the Broncos and how the quarterback change is massive, but people do not realize this defense doesn't change, especially when they're at home. They are amongst the best. I said it last week again as well. They are borderline the second best defense in this playoff now behind Seattle. But when they're at home, I mean, they're arguably taking that number 1 spot just as good. They're pretty much neck and neck. And the only thing that kind of scares me off is that I know the number 1 seeds, or sorry, not scares me off. That makes me even feel better. Number 1 seeds in conference championships are 21-5 straight up since 2006, winning by double digits, by 10 plus points per game on average. And 12-3 straight up versus 2 seeds, 5-1 straight up, as anything under a field goal favorite. Kind of makes you think. I don't know. I got to give the Patriots credit. You know what I mean? Like, their defense, they played fantastic. The Texans and the Chargers, though, weak offensive lines. I don't know if I can necessarily just justify it that much because we hit on it perfectly. I mean, Patriots backing them last week. Chargers had a beat up O-line. The week before. Texans, pretty much same thing when they had their guy out as well. Broncos, top 3 offensive line. Huge swing of talent right there, in my opinion. if they just protect Stiddy, I don't see a problem with him getting the ball out quick enough. I don't necessarily think they're going to make him do some explosive plays by any means necessary, but as long as he's comfortable and they put the defense in good positions, they have the easiest shot in the world at covering this number. Because again, when they're at home, I think this number's still too high. They're at home, they're a different team, so I can't justify it that big.
Yeah, great point by you again. We're at 4.5 right now, which, if you want to, bet against the public, which I would argue you should always think about doing long term, because again, more often than not, the public's going to lose than they win. That's just the way public bettors react and spread their cash around. But we have a teaser opportunity here, Cade. I think you mentioned right before we started the show here about how you're looking at a teaser. So right now, if you're sitting 4.5 and you think, man, that's still a little short, I don't believe in Stidham, I'll tell you too, Drake May, he had a lot of turnovers against the Texans. This is his first true road game in the playoffs. He was also being interviewed saying he's never been to Colorado. So the elements, the altitude, this is all unknown for New England. They might roll, they might cover, it may not matter. There's a reporter who asked Mike Vrabel, like, why aren't you going out to Denver earlier in the week? Because I think the Patriots are flying out either Thursday or Friday.
There's something late, yeah.
Yeah, today, or maybe it's tomorrow. I don't even know if they've left yet, but there's a lot of, evidence and science saying it takes like up to 2 weeks to acclimate. But what Belichick used to do is, if they play Denver, basically, rent out some D3 Air Force practice field and acclimate that way. So I don't know if Vrabel, I mean, he was a player, so maybe he thinks it's not as big a deal as maybe like I've never been to Colorado. I'd love to visit. I've heard a lot of great things, Cade. So I can't tell you that, you step off the plane and you're gasping for air. But I just think, again, the big thing is Stidham playing and Nick's not playing. But again, this is another thing to consider. Like Drake May's first road game, first time in Colorado, altitude. Denver, I mean, again, that is no joke there. So I think maybe we're building more of a case here to look at the Broncos. Obviously, Rithmm is recommending that. But if you want to get some more wiggle room, Broncos 4.5 up to 10.5. That is a wise guy Wong teaser. You go through the 7, you go through the 10. That could definitely be worth it. But I think, to me, this is a play that if you're a data-driven bettor, if you believe in Rithmm, which you should, this is Broncos plus the points. Let me ask you about the total here, though, Cade, because the total's been a little bit interesting, because even though Bo Nix is out and Jared Stidham is in, you would think that would be a downgrade to the offense, but actually the total ticked up a little bit. If you notice, this total opened like 41. It's up to 42.5. And I see a couple of books juice like it may go to 43. And if you look at the splits in this one, only 52% of bets at DraftKings are going over, but it accounts for 83% of the money. So that's a good split. Low bets, higher dollars to the over. The total has ticked up. And I know you and I both love systems like this, but you look at the AFC or NFC championship games this weekend, the Final Four, the over in this situation, in this spot over the last 20 years is 25 and 16, 61%. The weather, it looks like it has shifted a bit, because I remember early in the week reading something like, oh, it's going to be 50, 60 degrees, beautiful day. Well, that's changed. It looks like it might be like 20 degrees, about 10-mile-per-hour winds. The weather is getting a little bit dicier, a little bit worse. So let me throw this to you, Cade. Any love for either side of the total from a market-based perspective? You want to go over? It looks like that's the way this line is moving, and it's kind of fishy because, again, Stidham's in, yet you would think this total would theoretically drop, but it's actually gone up. But then we look at Rithmm, and we have some conflicts here. We have a recommended under prediction of 41.7, recommended over 46.4, recommended under 41.3. So there are no green star plays. There's no smart signals. We have a conflict here. Cade, to me, the easy thing is I'm going to lay off. I'm going to respect and probably lean over just because that's what the market is doing. But Rithmm is not really backing up either side of this, over-under bet. How do you view this game from a matchup standpoint? How are you attacking this total? Do you have any interest? And also, if you were to, not parlay, but tease this game, and you want to take Denver up, would you rather then go up to, 48.5 and go under? Or would you rather go down to 36.5 and go over?
There's a lot of angles, I think, in that aspect. I didn't really think about it that much. only because I already did have, like I said, I had Broncos, and then I did actually do the tees. But as far as total goes, my models were conflicting as well. One under, two over, all three are over 50% of a win chance. Steady off personally, just given the offensive gigantic question mark on the Broncos side. But again, I think it goes back to the defenses that we know that are both very, very good, of course. It could very much so be a spot where Stidham throws for 250 and two or three touchdowns, or it could be he plays like a ghost and he gets sub 100 and nothing. So it's the biggest question mark of the weekend by far, I think. I just think your value is more so found in a side given the model's prediction rather than a total that's conflicting on the models personally. But splits, like I said, I'm with you. Splits make me lean over. The situation kind of makes me lean over a little bit, given that it didn't move at all. But yeah, I think I'm with you there.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Again, just the fact that we don't have a clear recommendation from Rithmm, and obviously respecting that movement toward the over, that tells me that there were some bettors who, once it was clear, and again, there was really no lag time. Like, game's over, Peyton said Stidham's playing. So this news has been out there for a while, and we have not seen this total fall. It's only ticked up a bit. So maybe there is some respect for a little bit of a higher scoring game, 24-20, 23-20, 27-24. I mean, you can think of all the permutations in your head, but definitely want to respect that total did rise. Let's get to some player props here, Kate, because we had a pretty good weekend last weekend with a lot of those props coming through for us.
We did.
And there were a couple that just automatically jumped out to me, and they're both Patriots players. And I want to get your take on these guys, and if you think anyone maybe would be who should we target with Stidham coming in here? Who's he going to look to? There were some injuries in that game against Buffalo with who's it, Franklin, and the other guy got hurt, so we have to check their statuses, see where they're at. But the one that really just jumped out to me, and it's going to maybe be a little bit trendy, which scares me, but Kayshon Boutte, who, again, was one of the kind of the rare good picks that Belichick had at the very end. He was a 6th rounder. I believe he was like a 5-star top recruit to LSU. I don't know if he got in trouble or not, or just didn't live up to expectations, but at one point he was considered like the next big LSU receiver. He kind of, sticks to the Pats. And then really, since Drake May took over, there was an automatic connection. Even when the Patriots were losing all those games last year, there was a Kayshon Boutte connection where he was just really good with the deep pass. And we've seen it continue this year. We obviously saw that unbelievable one-handed catch in the end zone against the Texans, which was a huge play. And they needed those points, and he really stepped up. So Boutte is just in the zone right now. And I like the fact that we have a massive discrepancy between what the betting market is offering for Boutte and what Rithmm is predicting. Right now in the betting market, Kayshon Boutte's over-under receiving yardage is 35.5. And again, this is a guy who could get you a 40-yard bomb and cash this thing in one fell swoop to the over. Check this out, Cade. He's predicted 64.1 receiving yards. You and I have been doing this all year long. We've done a lot of games and a lot of discrepancies. I don't remember a receiving yardage that was like 30 yards different between Rithmm and the market. So that gets me excited to play this Kayshon Boutte over. It's also a smart signal. So it's not just a recommended play, but the conditions of this bet historically have been a really good cashing play. And then we look at just the way he's trended. We've gotten into the postseason. He had 66 yards against the Chargers. He had 75 in the last game against the Texans. You can always check home road. Is there any favoritism one way or the other? He's kind of pretty consistently, at least recently, cashed these overs. So as we go to Denver, who's Surtain going to cover? Who's Riley Moss going to cover? He could be a guy that you really target here. But my first play is going with this Kayshon Boutte over. I'm again worried that maybe he's now no longer under the radar, Cade, after that big catch. Maybe the public knows about him more. But I'll follow Rithmm here and go Boutte over 35.5. He's predicted nearly double that with a smart signal. What are your thoughts on Boutte or anyone else who you're targeting here, Cade?
Yeah, everybody who's keeping track, this is the 3rd consecutive game now, especially in the postseason, that Rithmm has highlighted Kayshon Boutte, and every one of them have pretty much soared over, if not really close to the projection. So last week, he was projected high 50s, maybe mid to low 60s. ended with what was 70, what was it, 79, 76.
Yep.
Hit the over on the one-handed grab. That was one catch. That was it. And Buddy on our Discord's actually been laddering these props up to that projection line. So he's 2 for 2 with Booty now. I'd like to see him run it back with this one again. But yeah, I mean, certain players I've noticed that Rithmm is actually in a rhythm for, which we've highlighted in the past, obviously. Kayshawn Booty is becoming one of those players. And I am all for getting pretty much the same line in a popular target for Drake May. So yeah, I'm definitely all over it. And I think the Denver defensive scheme works in his favor most definitely this weekend. So I'll ride that one with you.
Nice. Love it. The other one that caught my eye was, and you were mentioning a second ago, like, the Rithmm Hall of Fame guys, like Rithmm just has, for whatever reason, just can diagnose these guys and predict them very well. But it's Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper is another guy who I saw a tweet from Rithmm recently as well on this, but he's a guy that is a backup tight end, doesn't get a ton of targets, doesn't get a ton of looks, but he's always in this single digit receiving yardage prop, which to me, it's one of those props where don't go to the bathroom, don't go to the fridge and get another drink, because it might be that one play randomly at the end of the third quarter that he cashes this. All we care, of course, is that it cashes. But Austin Hooper right now sitting at 9.5 receiving yards. Rithmm is predicting 28.5. So basically 3 times the output here that then he's predicted in the betting market. Once again, a Green Star Smart Signal recommended play. And if we look at his trends, he's gone over this number quite a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his last 10. 14 yards last week to cash this bet. If we look at some home road, he's done very well at home. And on the road, he's gone over 3 straight. So here's another player that definitely will not be very heavily bet, but a guy who one catch could cash this thing. And also the matchup, you're doing a good job of explaining it, Cade. Like, you got to think about Hunter Henry. You got to think about Diggs. Booty's the deep threat. There is a report that Mac Hollins practiced today. He's probably a long shot to play, but, Stevenson out of the backfield, Henderson. Hooper's a guy that is going to get a favorable matchup here. And if he can get you one catch for 10 yards, you could easily cash this ticket here. So Hooper jumped out to me. Kate, I'll just throw it to you. Who do we target on Denver? Anyone that you're thinking about? Is this a play the Denver guys under because, Stidham hasn't really had any game experience with them? Or can we find a way to maybe buy low and maybe think through who Stidham may go to? Is it a tight end? Is it, a slot guy? Anyone jump out to you in any other props here for Denver in particular?
The props for a side with a backup quarterback are so hard to pinpoint because of the amount of variance that plays into it. This is a second team guy who's getting second team reps playing pretty much first team for like the first time in God knows how long. Like, you have no idea who the number one guy is. Obviously, his coordinator and Peyton specifically is probably in his ear saying, feed Sutton, feed Franklin, whatever. Look for these guys on these specific routes, blah, 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 this and that. This dude's going to throw to whoever's open. We have no idea who the heck that's going to be. I kind of tend to stray away unless if the model has some crazy big discrepancy over a specific opposing side. Then I can look into it. I didn't really see anything off the top of my head. If I'm not mistaken, I really didn't see anybody actually with any recommendation as far as Denver goes. They're actually on the Pats side, which is funny. So I kind of tended to stay away just for the safety of it. Although, yeah, I guess I was kind of in that boat where I kind of just tended more to the Pats players in this kind of game. Feels weird playing Pats overs with the Broncos side, but we'll get there.
Well, it makes sense, man. I mean,
it does.
Again, we have a lot of, data, box scores to recreate. We've had a full season of Drake May with these weapons, and we can figure out, okay, who does he go to? Where's the matchup? If you're betting player props on Denver, you are really just flipping a coin here. Again, not knowing how Stidham's going to perform, not knowing maybe his just inclination of who to get the ball to. You could play devil's advocate and say, okay, maybe that provides opportunity for guys you're not thinking about. But to me, Cade, if I'm gonna play a player prop, I'm gonna lean, of course, on what Rithmm is recommending to me. But I want some semblance of experience or results to go off of And you just don't have that at all
Right.
with Stidham here. So I wouldn't feel bad. I'm with you, man. I'm going to avoid a lot of these ones. And again, Booty and Hooper, they're lining up here, and we have some game film to lean on. So those would be the two that I'd be looking at for sure.
I will say for Hooper before we moved on, similar to last week when we were talking about Bills tight ends with Dawson Knox and Kincaid, Broncos are still allowing the third most receiving yards to tight ends. And Kincaid's overhit last week. I don't know about Dawson. I forget about Dawson. So just to butt in, I'll be adding Hooper and probably maybe Henry if his depending on his line. I didn't even look at that 42. Oh wow. Maybe just Hooper. We'll stick with the single. We'll stick with the single digit. Single digit props have been on fire, as we've all said. So yeah, Hooper receptions too for me as well. I know his is like 1.5, so I expect that to be involved. But
great point, by yeah, no, thank you for saying that, because now that I think about it, yeah, I mean, Knox had a good game. Kincaid played great. Is that a position that you could target and exploit, hopefully? And that makes total sense to me. Henry's a guy I could get behind, but Rithmm is not really recommending that. He's at 42.5, predicted 40.4. So it looks like Hooper might be the play there. Let's go to the second game here, Cade, because obviously there's a lot to talk about with the Rams and the Seahawks. First thing that jumped out to me is it's a divisional game. The fact that we've seen these teams play each other twice during the regular season. There was the first game where the Rams beat Seattle 21-19 at home. And then we all remember, and I'll never forget it, the second game where Seattle beat the Rams 38-37. That incredible 2-point conversion that was a fumble, and then Darnold, blowing it, turning it over, and then coming back and then being a hero. Again, money line short favorites, because I remember, I think it was Seattle. Were they -1.5 or 2.5? It was a very short number, but I remember the money line cashed, not the spread. So right off the bat, you're giving me a divisional matchup. You've already played twice. You're playing again. Before we even get to the splits, the system matches, all the rhythm edges, I'm automatically going to lean divisional dog. You and I have talked about it all year long. Divisional dogs bark louder than non-divisional dogs because you know your opponent. You play them more often. You know the tendencies of the other players, the coaches, the stadiums, all that kind of stuff. So with that being said, without even digging deeper, I'm leaning Rams here. Then we get into what the betting market is showing us, Cade, and this is kind of unbelievable to me. Like, if you told me that, we'd see a big move toward New England and maybe kind of creep back down to Denver because it was an overshot of the line, like I could get behind that. I am really surprised, and just the more I look at it, how sharp the Rams are in the spot. Like, this is crazy to me in a way, because as we let off the show by saying, hey, these are two super, super lopsided, very clear public and contrarian plays. Obviously, Pats are the public play. Denver's the contrarian play. But you look at Rams Seahawks, it is even more stark here, Cade, because right now you're getting 82% of spread bets. Remember, it was 74% on New England, 82% saying this line is way too short. They're rushing to the window saying, you're giving me Seattle, who's looked like a wagon, who just blew out the Niners, only laying 2.5 at home. Like, they can just win by a field goal and cover this number. Everybody and their mother is playing Seattle here. And again, I get it. I understand it. But for you and I who like to lean on data and not lean on feel, you got to ask yourself, if everyone and their mother's on Seattle, and Seattle opened mostly -2.5s, some books opened -3, got down to 2.5 very quickly. But ask yourself this, if Seattle is so popular, if the books are just getting ticket after ticket after ticket on Seattle -2.5, why aren't we up to 3? Why aren't we up to 3.5? Why aren't we up to 4? That's a very clear indication to me, Cade, that there's a lot of liability on the Rams. The odds makers, despite all this Seattle money, they don't want to go up to 3. They don't want to hand out a 3 because they're more concerned about the Rams +3 contrarian bettors than they are Seattle -2.5. So Seattle is very popular, but yet the liability is showing on the Rams side. So right off the bat, we have a huge contrarian play to go with the Rams, only getting 18% of spread bets at DraftKings. Then at Circa, only 29% of bets, but 74% of the money is on the Rams. So out in Vegas, you're getting a lot of respected action here going with the Rams. Then we look at the divisional dog angle. We look at the late window dogs, 4 o'clock or later. They're covering 60% of the time in the postseason. Short playoff dogs getting 3 or less, they're 70% ATS since 2017. And then the cherry on top, we have one discrepancy here with one system play on the Rams, or sorry, on Seattle, although that's a caution flag. It's only a 1-point spread, but Rams minus 0.3. Again, you and I love it when there's a dog that's favored in Rhythm's eyes, but here's the kicker. Here's the big one. Green Star recommended, again, Rams minus 0.3 favored on the road. So I love the Rams in this spot here, Cade. You and I were talking earlier about how we really want to get that 3. I'm looking across the board and there's no 3s. And I'm even seeing one book get down to 2. So I actually bought the Rams up. I found a book that was Rams plus 2.5 plus 100. I think it was Fanatics, and bought it up to plus 3 at minus 125. It's a little pricey. I don't love going that high, but 3 is the most common key number. Odds makers obviously do not want to give out a 3, which makes me even more excited to want to get the 3 because it looks like it's important. So I bought up Rams to plus 3. But let me toss it to you here, Cade. Thoughts on this game? Are you surprised we aren't up to 3? And how are you attacking Rams and Seahawks?
Yeah, this one's fun.
It's crazy, man.
This was one of the best games. Like 2 weeks ago on Thursday night? Like cinema, absolutely. If you guys were there, you remember. Amazing. Like it was one of the better games of this year. And then the Rams buttered back and said, "Hold my beer. We're going to play the Bears real quick and deliver probably the most electric finish the NFL has seen in the last 5 years." I feel sorry for the Bears. I wanted them to pull it off really bad. But like I said, we had the cover there, so I'm fine with it. But that would have been sweet if they won that out. Anyways, this game specifically. Congratulations, Matthew Stafford, MVP ticket holders. I'm pretty sure he's got that one unlocked now after today. But simply put, we're back in the MVP in this case, I think. I love the revenge spot so much. So much. And I find it a little bit surprising, in my opinion, maybe, that Seattle magically, I don't want to say magically because they have kind of earned it in a way. The line feels kind of weird though, and I kind of get it because, again, going back to last game, they did win by 2, quite literally, so I guess it kind of makes sense a little bit. But the Rams have been pretty much the best team in football consistently, pretty much all season long. Then they play the Seattle Seahawks, they lose that game, and all of a sudden it's like the public kind of switches off. They're like, hold on. They just beat the best team. We have a battle between pretty much 1 and 2. Now they're number 2 in the NFL in EPA per play, 7th in EPA per play allowed. Seahawks is 14th in net EPA, and then they're 1st in EPA per play allowed. So they, by no anomaly, they have the number 1 defense in the country. I'm not doubting Seattle at all. They play phenomenal, similar to Denver. They play even way better at home. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous here, if I'm not, honestly. But they have a huge, massive edge at the quarterback position. Now, last game, like I said, Sam Darnold isn't exactly the most experienced playoff quarterback. We even doubted him in the game when we were backing the Seahawks in that Thursday night game because he hasn't really played that many in big games. And if he did, he's usually kind of flopped around a little bit. Nonetheless, I'm going to take the guy who's already won a Super Bowl, who's been here before, who's comfortable with the pressure. He's somebody that defenses hate to face in close games. And honestly, going back off of the revenge game that they lost, this is a terrible spot for them to be in. And all the injury concern with Darnold's oblique, all of a sudden hasn't thrown a football in the last 7 days. Comes out, puts 41 points up on the board. What are we doing here? So, fortunately now for Darnold, obviously, Kenneth Walker, who is pretty much going to be by himself. Charbonnet is now out for the year, which I think is huge as well for this play as well. It's hard not to feel like a coaching kind of advantage is almost on our side as well. I mean, McVay, McDonald's even just as good. He's proven that this year as well. But he's more like Sam Darnold in this case. It's weird. consistently good in big games, not so much. It kind of flip flops around a little bit. I love Seattle. I really do. And I just think the Rams are the better team in this kind of position. That said, the value and the price that we're getting Rams on the money line aspect, because I put them in a teaser. I'm taking them outright, though, for the sake of putting them in the teaser. So, tease wise, Denver, like you mentioned, plus 10.5. I have Rams sitting at 8.5 now. I got the Rams money line at plus 125 on the score. Yeah, down there. So, yeah, plus 125 on the score. Not necessarily to back fall off, but I didn't want to take like a 2.5 number. I'd rather just kind of play it just because I already have the teaser in line. So I feel like that's probably the safest option. And if it happens on the money line, it happens. I mean, it is what it is. I don't really play money lines huge anyways. So it's not like anything crazy. It's more of like a model projected play. And in this case, if Rithmm is agreeing with us, I don't know what else to say. Because if you have a plus 50% chance to win and the model's saying that they should be favored, there's your sign. There's not only much that I can really explain other than just pretty much putting it into the model's hands and letting it do its thing, because I'm trusting that right now. And that's what we're going with.
No, you set it up perfectly, man. I'm right there with you. Again, you have so many just fishy things that if you like Seattle, I think you have to pinch yourself and say, why is this line so low? Like, it makes total sense that Seattle just rolled San Francisco. They're at home, no travel involved. Normally I would say with the Rams, third straight road game, like that's pretty hard to do, right? But to your point, you got the MVP, you got the coach behind you. McVay is just fantastic. As you were talking about McVay, I dialed it up in the database here, Cade. Sean McVay in his career, 30-22 against the spread as a dog, 58%. But if you just isolate McVay in the postseason as a dog, he's 6-2 against the spread. So you can get a good coach with points. I love your teaser play of 2.5 to 8.5. That makes a ton of sense as well. If you want to, pair it up with Denver going up to 10.5, makes a lot of sense. But this is just one of those plays where I think the public sees it very clearly as Seattle's at home. They're the better team. It's a short number. Lay at Seattle. But when you really dig deeper, you're seeing a lot of factors, a lot of boxes being checked off on that Rams side with the divisional dog, the super contrarian play. And the most important thing to me, Cade, is not only are there no threes available, you got to ask yourself, why aren't the odds makers letting me get a 3 on the Rams? Well, because they don't want to give it to you. That's why. Because, if it was no big deal and they were bullish on Seattle, they'd give you 3.5 with the Rams. No, they are unwilling around that most important key number to give you the 3. That's super, super critical to me. And again, the cherry on top is Rithmm saying, yeah, this should actually be maybe a pick 'em or even Rams slightly favored. So whether you want to tease them, you want to money line them, as you're talking, Cade, you hit the nail on the head. 3 recommended Rams money line plays, including a smart signal just to win the game outright. Or if you want to buy them up to 3, which that's what I did, you have a lot of options here. But man, the Rams look very, very sharp, and I cannot wait to sweat them this weekend. Any thoughts on the total here, Cade? Because as I was looking at this total, it did tick down a little bit. I mean, you had some shops open around 47. You're mostly around 46.5 right now. I'm looking at the splits where at DraftKings, only 31% bets, 66% dollars on the under. That looks like a pretty sharp under split. Circa, it's a little more even, 52% bets, 55% dollars on the under. Of course, Seattle, you got to think about the weather. What's it like in the Pacific Northwest? Looks like right now, as I'm pulling this up, I don't know if you have an updated weather prediction here, Cade. Mine's frozen, so I'm gonna go to Roto Champ or Roto Grinders. But it looks like mild temps, light winds, likely no rain, no issues. That's from Kevin Roth. So looks like weather should not be a problem. You do have some systems here. This would technically be your prime time or late window under. You have a divisional under, outdoor divisional under. So I'd lean a little bit under, but here's what makes it difficult. Once again, we have some conflict here with Rithmm. We have a caution flag saying take the under. It'll be around 45. We have a recommended over closer to 50. And we have a recommended under caution flag 44.3. Obviously, we have 2 box scores that are saying first game in LA, 21-19. That was an under. And then clearly last game, way, way over. They scored like almost 80 points. So I know playoffs are different. I have no dog in the fight here with the total. I do respect a little bit the under just because it fell a bit, and there are some system matches and good splits. But Rhythm's only recommendation is to play the over. So, any love for either of these over or under plays for this one, Cade?
Yeah, it's hard for me to play a total in, like I said, both of these games. I like when I already have a play on the money line, we already have a teaser pretty much in both games. So when I already have that much pending on a specific sides or whatever, I'd rather not play, especially when I have conflicting models, because mine actually has a Green Star recommended play for the under projecting 44 points. And now that I see yours is at 49, I'm like, yep, but yeah, we're going to process of elimination here and just play it safe with our side. I'm a big systems guy, so it's really hard for me not to kind of like the under. But knowing both of these offenses and what they did literally almost 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, I don't want to take that chance at this being a way off miss and losing in the first half.
And to your point too, a lot of people might be thinking like, oh, like how does Cade have a Green Star over and I have a Green Star under? Like, remember, there's the Rhythm House model, which is your
Yeah.
Rhythm model, which is basically what Rhythm's go-to model is telling you. But like, then you can create your own models, and maybe we should do a more work on explaining this to people, Cade, because you can either just tail what Rhythm is predicting, the best of the best, or you can create your own models based on factors and criteria that are important to you. Like I have my Josh 2 model that's saying go over. I have a Josh ATS model saying go under. I can't remember what the factors and the criteria are here, but when you create a model, it'll let you toggle different factors. So like if you're looking at a total where I'm focusing on maybe pace of play, I weight that very heavily, or scoring defense, or throwing the ball or running it. Like that's why different Rhythm users have different models that they create, because the criteria and the factors they select are probably going to be a little bit different. So just wanted to mention that. Cade, let's get to some props though, because obviously this total is a little bit higher than the Pats game. Pats game's 42.5. This is 46.5. So theoretically more scoring opportunities here if we want to play any overs. There were a couple player props that jump out to me. The first one was Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams to go over 53.5 rushing yards. For a guy like him, 53.5 seems kind of light. Obviously, that's respect, not a tip of the cap to the really good defense and defensive line of the Seahawks. But it's a Green Star over, and he's recommended or predicted for nearly 70 rushing yards. Again, that is a near 20-yard discrepancy. If we look at the way he's trended, this guy's pretty consistently cashed a lot of over tickets here, okay? That's a lot of green bars all toward the over. Also want to remind everyone that we have this new bet sync that Rhythm has come up with. So if you notice all the numbers down here, like if you want to line shop, it'll quickly tell you which book is giving you the best price. Because again, there are some 55s, 54.5, 53.5 is your best odd number. But if you want to bet that immediately, boom, just tap the book. It'll go right to your sports book and it'll put the bet in right there for you. So just want to mention that. But Kyren Williams jumped out to me, Cade. And then I'll mention Kenneth Walker. Believe it or not, his under. He's sitting at 85.5. That's a pretty high number. That's like not quite Derrick Henry level, but like that's a pretty big number. Obviously, it makes sense. The guy was incredible in the last game against San Fran, 116. He's gone over. He's gone nearly 100 yards 3 out of the last 4 games. But you mentioned something that's important to me. Charbonnet is out. Charbonnet tore his ACL. He's a pretty good backup. So on the one hand, you're like, no Charbonnet. That means more Kenneth Walker. But on the other hand, is that going to overload him? Is he going to be winded? Like that's more snaps, more usage that he's going to have to deal with. And then also, Cade, I don't even know who their backup is, but maybe that's a guy we could target. Between the two, any love for the Walker under or the Kyren Williams over, or maybe something else that you're thinking about?
I wasn't on the Kyren over quite yet, but I was gonna look into that one. I was on the Kenneth Walker under, as well as his attempts, I believe, actually. And then there's one more player, but I'll break down Kyren first. First of all, literally going back a little over a month ago. Sorry, I've been saying like 2 weeks. So it hasn't been 2 weeks. It's been almost a month now, but whatever. Kyron literally put up 70 rushing yards on the same exact defense in the same exact stadium a little less than a month ago, just to keep that in mind. If the model's projecting him roughly 69, which is 1 yard less than that, I don't really know how that makes much sense why the line is so short for him, because I already kind of leaned Blake Corum under. So to have Kyron, number one guy, at his over at that kind of number, I'm all for it personally. As far as Kenneth Walker goes, now these numbers are a little bit weird because obviously, like you mentioned, you have Charbonnet who's out, but again, he's only averaging 60 rushing yards per game. So that's roughly 20 plus rushing yards less than his projected line, whatever it is. And in only 23% of his games, he's rushed over 83.5 yards. Even though he's with another guy at those numbers, that's kind of what makes me kind of teeter on it a little bit. But then you look at the smart signal, we had under rushing attempts. Kind of like the rushing attempts, honestly, a little bit better if that, just because of the smart signal, and kind of like to steer away from the yards just because we had the smart signal. Big discrepancy on 6 attempts. That's a lot of ground to kind of make up and lose for. Very well could be a game that just kind of like to go through the air. I can't really tell what their game plan might be with Charbonnet out. I mean, he might be a pass catcher for him. They might be passing all game. I don't know. So I did like the rushing attempts under more than the yards just because of the smart signal. But my guy that I am highlighting tonight specifically, Colby Parkinson. He's a parlay piece, if I'm not mistaken. Had his over yards. And similar to Hopper, similar to Booty, 3 straight games where Colby Parkinson has been highlighted as a green star and has went over by a significantly large margin. We had him in Carolina, had him in Chicago. Same line at 19.5. They're respecting him a little bit more here, giving him 24. I still like it. I'm heavily invested, I think. Definitely the number one guy as far as tight ends go. He gets more target share than Higbee. But at this point, he's almost like the third read for Stafford. And now it's Parkinson that's getting majority of these routes. He's pretty much matched the combined targets of all 3 of their tight ends, but he's got a 68% snap share, which is only behind Puka and Devontae. Since Higbee returned, I think we're seeing Parkinson have put up 36 yards, 34 yards, and 56 yards in those 3 games since his return. So when you have the clear tight end 1 at that kind of spot, you got like 7 targets, you got 5 catches. I love the play of 24.5. I think it's fairly short if I'm being completely honest with you here. And I think it's definitely in play. He might be the second leading receiver on this team. I mean, I'm a big Devontae Adams guy, but giving a little bit of a discrepancy on 30 yards, I'll take my chance with it. And I'll just play it straight up personally. But yeah, that's going to be my play for this weekend.
No, it makes total sense. I mean, Rithmm is showing you an edge, a parlay piece here, over 24.5, predicted around 31. So you do have about a 6-yard discrepancy there, almost 7 yards. And also, Kate, I'm looking at just the Rams and their postseason stats and looking at the target share, as you mentioned. Puka Nacua obviously just gets peppered with targets. He's had 28 in just 2 games, so like 15 a game basically. Devontae Adams is at 19, but as you mentioned, third most targeted player is Colby Parkinson with 10. So that makes a ton of sense to me. And was it this game? Did you mention that he had that crazy touchdown catch in the corner? Was it against Seattle? Yeah. So again,
Seattle and the Carolina won the game winner. Yeah.
And if Stafford's a veteran QB and you're proving to him that crunch time, you're making plays for me, I think that confidence hopefully will spill over and hopefully cash that over. I was going to highlight Jordan Whittington only because it's one of those single-digit numbers that you and I get excited about. Yeah, so he's 7.5. Needs 8 yards to cash this over. I know he's got dreads. I'm just like, who's the guy with the dreads? That's Whittington. But he's predicted 22.5. So about 3 times
Huge.
the
Yeah.
discrepancy there. And he's a little boomer bust. There are games where he's like no targets, no receptions, but he had 35 the last game. He's a guy that kind of flies under the radar. He's pretty quick. I think he's their either their punt or kick return guy as well. But if you look at some line chopping opportunities, I mean, I am seeing at least one book at like 6.5. So maybe this is the ultimate buy low. And again, it is a Green Star recommended play here. So maybe Whittington is a guy that we can target. Cade, anyone else you want to hit on? And Jigba is actually an underplay. Puka is also an underplay. So there aren't really many others. I'm looking at receptions right now. Where can Higbee get you 2 catches? He's actually predicted 3.3. So maybe Higbee shows up here. He's a veteran guy. This guy Mumpfield, I remember him catching a pass or two here or there. So he's minus 105 just to catch one pass. I'm kind of just thinking out loud here, Cade. But yeah, anyone else jump out to you or anyone we should hit on here before we get out?
I don't think. I mean, I'm just glazing over everything, but I went back to Kyron for a minute just because that's one I'm actually looking into still to bet this weekend. But averaged 80 rushing yards per game in both of the meetings this year. So if anybody was doubting that first one, go ahead and add that one to my card. But as far as anybody else, I think we have enough props in both games for me. If I wanted to get a little bit frisky with it and just play every single recommended, no, I'm just kidding. No, I think I'm calling it after Kyron. Let's see. You have Kyron, you have Booty, you have Hopper, you have Parkinson now, and then Walker attempts under. So yeah, I think that's fair share of props there for us this weekend.
Yeah, good group here. I'll just throw out Stafford at you. Only it's not a recommended play. It is a parlay piece. I'm just looking at the discrepancy, Cade. Over 253, predicted 317. I mean,
that's huge too.
70 yards. I mean, that's pretty big. And if you're looking at, how he's performed, he's gone over this number a ton. Crunch time, veteran, looking for his first MVP, his second Super Bowl. And then if you also look at that last game, that 38-37 game, he threw 457. So maybe McVay says, let's air it out and let's score some points. But usually at 253 is kind of considered a bit of a high quarterback prop total. But not for Stafford. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. He's covered this number a ton. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 5 on the road. So maybe Stafford could be worth a look as well.
If they're on the road, if they're dogs, I mean, they're going to be playing from behind. So I don't hate that one bit. Yeah, I agree.
Love it. Well, my friend, we did it. We're going to have a hell of a Sunday, hopefully. Makes me a little bit sad that after this weekend, there's only one more game. But then, Cade, you and I can get into, for next week's show, Super Bowl prop bets, Super Bowl opportunities. And that week, that 2-week stretch is just, you get excited, then it's far away, and then it's like, oh, it's never happening. And then it hits, and it's like the next day. So it's funny how that bye week and that layoff kind of gets you amped. But very much looking forward to hopefully a Patriots-Rams Super Bowl, Cade. What do you think?
Wouldn't be a crazy ask, I don't think. That'd be a hefty one, wouldn't it?
I would take that one.
That'd be really awesome. Good.
Yeah, Pats +3. I don't know. What would it be?
I've been looking at the hypotheticals. I think it was. If it was it was either 3 or it was 2.5. But I looked at the hypotheticals earlier today, and I'm pretty sure that was one of them. Yeah.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but I will definitely take the Pats. Pats Seattle, although only if Seattle wins by 2 or less. But yeah, Pats Rams would be pretty amazing. Well, that about does it, buddy. Yeah, just want to thank everyone for tuning in once again. Another great rundown. I want to remind everyone, if you haven't done it yet, download Rithmm. Give them a 5-star review in the App Store. Recommend, refer a friend. Tell your buddies about Rithmm. And, of course, we'll be continuing to do the rundown here leading up to the Super Bowl. So, Cade, any final thoughts? Take us home, man. Any words of wisdom? Or how are you going to – here's the thing, Cade. Has your girlfriend – does she know that there are no games on Saturday? And is she asking you, like my wife, so that means we can go to Bed Bath & Beyond and Home Depot on Saturday? So I got to be doing some significant other time on Saturday now.
No, we actually just got rid of not got rid of, that's a terrible way to put that. Well, we had the birthday festivities last weekend during the divisional games. So I already had to miss that. So I pretty much made it a standpoint that I got college basketball on Saturday, got NFL again on Sunday. You had your time, like I had to find out about the Bo Nix injury from her friend rather than myself. That was even rough. And yeah, so pretty much put the foot down. This weekend's for us. We got to have this one weekend, and then we can move on from there.
And Kate, I tell you what, if she can accept your crazy lifestyle as a better, like my wife begrudgingly has accepted over time, she's the one for you. Let me just say, because we're not easy to deal with.
Well.
I try not to let the emotion of winning and losing get to me, but we're in an unconventional industry, so she's the one if she can accept that and embrace that.
She's looking at me with like I have 3 heads right now, so I'm assuming it's a good sign, maybe. So,
but don't forget her. You win a big bet, you got to take her out to dinner.
Treat it. Yeah, absolutely.
She's the one, and we got to find a way to make our spouses happy, I guess. But,
right.
But good luck, everybody. Have a great championship Sunday, and Cade and I will be back at it on next Thursday, and Cade will be able to talk about the Super Bowl. So nothing wrong with that. But good luck, everybody.